Hello dear World of Warcraft friends, welcome back to a new video on my channel. A new chapter in the GM cheating drama opened over the weekend, and we just want to go through it again here. As I already said over the weekend, unfortunately I didn't have time to deal with it myself during the weekend, so that's why this is coming a bit later now. But nonetheless, it's an interesting development, let's put it that way. Let's see what awaits us here, and with that, let's get into the video. If you want, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, that would really support me, and we're not far from 37,700. Also, this thing here is linked in the video description. After the Plus scandal, Blizzard immediately kicked out the cheating GM and also punished the players. That was the last news video we had on this topic. If you want to get up to date, watch it again. But in the end, what we had, and there are only logs of it, no pictures or anything else, over the weekend or just before the weekend, it became known that a GM supposedly helped a group in a plus 23 Nexus point run, according to a written message. The players involved were a group of 4 people, had a random tank with them, and were hanging out in Discord with a GM. One of the players was said to know him. They were then running the plus 23 key and missed it by 1. And then they said that one dude should ask his GM friend if he could help them out a bit. In the end, the GM didn't hold back and actually did it. He finally stepped in and killed Lothraxian, who only had, I don't know, 1 point something percent HP left. But he also took out a trash mob with a touch of death, even though it still had over 15 million HP. So it's very likely that the players wouldn't have completed this key without the GM's intervention. The whole thing only became known because someone posted the logs on Reddit and talked about it. Because, as I said, there was no footage or anything like that. Yeah, it's pretty wild that a player knew about it, checked the logs, and then revealed the whole thing like that. Blizzard then said, yeah, we're taking this very, very seriously and we're looking into it. But they asked us to give them a little time, and in the end, they did respond. They confirmed that this GM cheated, that he used Touch of Death, one of the abilities only available to certain GMs, to just kill off a mob, and the GM was immediately fired. They also wrote, we are also taking action against the player accounts that were complicit in this violation. So they are taking action and imposing sanctions against those players who were involved. But apparently this didn't affect that random tank, only those 4 players who were hanging out together on Discord. Honestly, I think that's fair, because that one dude was just a random in the group. He really couldn't do anything about it in the end. And he probably didn't even understand what was going on in the end. So now someone else has come forward, because there was a lot of discussion over the weekend. The players kept checking the profiles of the cheaters involved over and over again to see if they had already been banned. And at first they weren't banned. And as you can imagine, that didn't exactly create a good atmosphere either. And also some people here in the forum wrote, hopefully there won't be any sanctions against Tank Bear. After all, he was just the whistleblower. So the whole thing got pretty wild. One player was then on a stream and talked about it. The people who were involved, so this group of 4 made fun of the GM who lost his job and so on and so forth. So it was an absolutely wild story. And now in the end, J.B, streamer and high-end Mythic Plus player wrote, I've been informed that Jesus has been banned for a month. Therefore, I will no longer be knowing who Jesus is. Please do not ask me about him or her. Good day. So, well, that last sentence was actually a joke. But Jesus was one of the players involved, whatever, and got a 1-month ban for cheating. Blizzard had only written that sanctions would be imposed on the players. We don't know what it looks like for the other players. Maybe the one who was proven to have contact with the GM even got a harsher punishment, I don't know. But apparently a 1-month ban is the standard punishment in this case, and if you ask me, I think it's completely justified. In the comments under the last video, I also asked, what is your opinion on this? Most people saw it the same way I did, but there were also a few people who said, yeah, that's way too harsh. They can't understand it at all. Just the fact that he was fired and then the players are also being punished. In my opinion, though, that's completely justified. In the end, when you're a GM, you have an employment contract just like you and me, after all. And that's what they wrote too. In their response, GMs who have access to these developer tools and the capabilities that come with them are not allowed to use them unless they are doing development work. So in other words, these GMs have that access, for example, to be able to test things like bug fixes and so on in the live environment. And let me put it this way, just wiping out mobs doesn't count as part of that. Accordingly, he violated his employment contract. That's it. You could maybe argue whether that's an immediate dismissal, but in my opinion, I don't know. It's pretty stupid to even get involved in that in the first place, so you shouldn't be surprised that there was this reaction. And I also think the players were absolutely right to be punished. In the end, yeah, one guy made contact with the GM, but the ideas seemed to come from everyone, so they were all encouraging him. No one objected. And in the end, I also saw pictures where these people were making fun of the fact that the GM had now been fired. So in my opinion, that's absolutely subhuman behavior. And if they hadn't done it, sure, in the end, it's the GM's own fault. He just shouldn't have gone along with it. And I don't think anyone forced him to do it. But putting him alone in such a situation and inciting him to do it, I find that very, very questionable. And combined with the fact that they talked crap about it afterward, that doesn't necessarily show that they have a flawless character if all of that is true, does it? So, okay, we know that 1-month bans were apparently handed out. What do you think about that? Is that good or still not enough? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time and take care.